big prediction guy. Hey, Arash, it came up. Vernon Adams to the Calgary Stampeders. I know you are getting the boys to pull some clips here. When do you want to run this?
You tell me. I mean, because everybody reported it today like it was news. Barney, I keep telling you, man. I told you about Brent Monson. Told you about this. If only I could predict the winners and losers of football games.
Oh,
then we'd be on it.
Let's go. Can you go to the clip? Can we play it?
Would not surprise me if Rick Campbell leaves BC and ends up being Ed Hervey's head coach with the Elks.
And brings VA?
Rick Campbell, son of Hugh, no. I believe it's going to be Trey Ford. I believe VA is going to go to Calgary. That's me reading the tea leaves there. I think.
So do you think Campbell is leaving, or is he getting the boot? Or does it matter?
Last week.
I think that what do they call it? A mutual parting of the ways, or something like that.
Yeah, that was last. DA's wearing a parka or a jacket, so that was close to the winter. Was that like last week?
That was last week. It was me and you and DA on Friday.
When did you hear about this? Like how? When did you think you knew about this?
That show was actually a week ago today. It was the first Tuesday after Grey Cup week that we did that one.
Mm-hmm.
I basically got the word. It was during the playoffs. At some point during the playoffs, the Rick Campbell Ed Hervey thing, I think, was basically done in October. Not that there's tampering that ever goes on in the CFL, or that anybody kind of breaks those kind of rules, and there's back channel conversations that go on. And the Vernon Adams thing was brewing for a while, and Jake Mayer, the Stampeders were done with, and here we are.
Tampering fun, marketing fun, lump it all into one. Who really cares at this point? Okay, how many? I said Suitors, and we have Glenn Suitor coming up later. How many? Was there another team involved here? Or does BC jump the gun with Calgary? Was Calgary was the 403 number the only one calling? Do you know anything there, or do you think, was there another team involved?
Well, I can't imagine there was, because if I'm the BC Lions, I would prefer to trade him to a team in the East. But I don't think the Riders were involved. The Blue Bombers certainly were not involved. I don't think Edmonton's been involved. They've got enough to do right now. So I think just by process of elimination, where is he going to land? He's not going to land in Toronto. He's not going to land in Montreal. Ottawa's moving forward with Drew Brown at quarterback. The only possibility could be Hamilton, but I think the Tiger Cats want to work something out with Bo. So I don't really know, Barney, where else he was going to go.
Was Kellen and I were going through this. We're not super savvy on the CFL trade and capital and what you're getting back and around. There's a couple picks here. Is this a fair deal? Who won this deal?
Nobody. I mean, Calgary won it because they're getting Vernon Adams. But the issue with draft capital in the CFL is this. The 4th overall pick in the 2023 NFL draft is Marvin Harrison Jr. The 4th overall pick in the 2023 CFL draft just retired. So, look at what happened with the Riders a couple of years ago. Their first round pick, his wife is a pharmacist. He's got a farm, and there's a lot more of an opportunity to make money elsewhere. So, I don't know what the value of a 2nd round pick in the CFL draft is. I don't think anybody does.
Well, when would Curtis Rourke be drafted to the CFL?
I would have to think that he's a 1st or 2nd round pick, and he may slide. And the only reason why he'll slide is because if he ends up being like a 4th or a 5th round pick in the NFL, and I certainly believe he's going to get drafted in the NFL, that just means not only that the team that drafts him is going to probably hold on to him for a couple of years, but he'll kind of bounce around the NFL circuit and and make a little more money as a number 3 somewhere, even on a practice roster somewhere for a little while. So it just may take a while for Curtis Rourke to end up here.
It would be funny, though, if he ends up in Calgary battling it out with VA. No?
Yeah.
Is that evil?
Yeah. No, I honestly, I don't think VA is going to be in Calgary by the time Curtis Rourke ends up in the CFL. I think Curtis Rourke is at least 5 years away from playing in Canada.
Okay, yeah. Dave Dickinson and him, that going to work out well? Dave was a heck of a quarterback, right?
Dave was it? Yeah. Things are not rosy in Calgary. And finally,
is it because of the mayor?
No, Kadeem Carey after the Grey Cup went off on Dickinson. We were all like in that confetti-covered field, and I'm talking to Arbuckle, and I turn around to talk to Dunk, and Justin's eyes are the size of baseballs. I'm like, what happened? He's like, Kadeem Carey just went off about Dave blames everybody but himself. Barney, I got to tell you, man, the Stampeders are nothing but a reputation team and have been for a long time now. You know, Bo's out of there. Didn't work with Bo the last couple of years. It didn't work with Jake Mayer. When's the last time the Stampeders were a legitimate playoff threat?
That's what early in the show, I said, is VA good? Basically,
yeah.
is VA the slap chop? It's out there. Everybody wanted it, or the Floby, or the Jinsu knife for us that are more in the 80s. It's like we have to have him. We have to get him. Maybe he's not as good as we thought. And then Kellen went through the stats first 6 games this year. Yeah, and there's some impressive stats. But okay, let's call 2 of those preseason games. First 6 game guy isn't the guy you want. You want the guy with a little bit of substance at the end.
Well, I just don't know who that is anymore in this league, period. I guess
Nick Arbuckle.
There you go. Yeah, Nick put together 2.5 solid quarters. God bless him. And it's going to probably make him the highest paid backup quarterback in the league this offseason. I mean, look, to me, Vernon Adams, if he doesn't get hurt, and if ands and butts for candies and nuts, what a Merry Christmas it would be. If Adams doesn't get hurt, he's the MOP this year. In a year where, you know, who was going to win the MOP? Should have been Milligan. But I look at the starting quarterbacks in this league, and I'm saying to myself, okay, or let me put it this way. Of the available quarterbacks in this league, by far Vernon Adams is the best one. Among the starting quarterbacks in this league, Vernon Adams is right there with the best. And I think one of the issues with Adams, Barney, is that he's still, like we talk about the Stamps being a reputation team. A lot of people think about Vernon Adams from his time in Hamilton and Montreal and even early on in BC. It's a different person. It's a different quarterback. It's a different demeanor. And what the Stampeders need to do is upgrade their roster significantly. Like, this is the first step. But to think, like, I just hope they don't think Vernon Adams is the solution to their problems, because the Stampeders have a terrible roster and have continued to just slide for the last number of years.
What's up in Toronto? You making moves after winning the Grey Cup, and
yeah, I reported, like I told you back in October, that Brent Monson, when the Stampeders fired their defensive coordinator, that Monson was going to end up here. They had co-defensive coordinators this year, and my sense, Barney, all along with this has been that was just a placeholder move for Monson's contract to expire with the Stamps, and then he'd end up in Toronto. He's a Southern Ontario guy. He's a dude who came up with Ryan Dinwiddie when they were young pups on that Calgary staff under Dickinson when they were winning Grey Cups. He brings a real aggressive mindset in terms of what they want to do, and he's in lockstep with the head coach right now. And you bring in, and he's also Canadian, which kind of adds to it. So you just kind of effectively, you bring Monson in. That was that was the plan all along, and Dave just made it easier by getting rid of him.
Arash Kellen here, and we were just sort of talking about the upcoming CFL draft, so I'm going to sort of talk about that quickly here. But the Vanier Cup went Saturday. Laval wins. What a disappointment for Regina Rams fans. We were right there. Right there to win on home turf, and obviously we'll host the Vanier Cup next year. But when we talked in advance of that, I think it was the Mitchell Bowl that was here. We were talking about advancing to the Vanier Cup, where they were likely going to get Laurier, which played Taylor Algesma, was the quarterback. Is he returning for a fifth year? Is that why I'm not reading his name anywhere in terms of the 25 CFL draft?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know. I don't even know if you have to declare. I don't know what goes into that process, to be honest. Dunk reported on the pregame show that there's some NFL interest. 6'6" quarterback with some arm strength. But I got to tell you something, fellas. Like I think about Carleton University basketball that I think has won something like 14 national championships in the last 21 years. And now Laval's won 12 Vaniers since 1999. 12 in 25 years. And I was a student at Bishop's in Lennoxville, Quebec, when they launched, and they
drinking what again?
Lucky Lager.
Oh,
yeah, Lucky Lager. Colson and Curtis's favorite.
Price point?
$8.99 for a 12 at the Esso. I come out of drinking all those Lucky Lagers, and the first year Laval went winless, and by their third year they won their first Vanier Cup. Okay, so their quarterback then was Matthew Bertrand. Bertrand is now the special teams coach. Their defensive coordinator then was Glenn Constantine. Constantine's the head coach. Their offensive line coach a million years ago was Carl Brennan. Brennan's the O-line coach. And their play caller, their offensive coordinator, was Justin Etier, who's still doing it. Like 25 years later, it's the same group that's still winning Vanier Cups. And the other guy I recognized on the sideline was Anthony Auclair, who 4 years ago was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning a Super Bowl, former Laval player. Now he's involved in the staff. Like, they keep that mafia together there, man. And all they really do is lift championships. It's amazing.
Somebody's got to bait them, though, to be like, just like when the Rams went to CIS, and I know it's a lot different, to be like, you guys got to go CFL. Like, enough with this. If you're the men that you say you are, you will put a professional team in something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but as you know, and I'll give Laval this. They were NIL before NIL.
Oh, why are they ever?
And if you're a player, I don't need the pay cut to go to the CFL. And if you're the coach, I'm not in a staff cap. And if you're the owner, you're saying to yourself, I run my own show here and no one tells me what to do. They got it pretty good over there in Quebec City, man.
Yeah, it's the best place, though. The instant rivalry, and I don't want to go down this again, but yeah, they're a wagon. There is no doubt about it. Okay, so what do we got? We got Josh Bell. He's been granted from the Riders about Ottawa's defensive coordinator. Richie Hall as well. I haven't heard anything on J.C. Sherritt, which I would tend to believe. I'm no newsbreaker like you are, but that would be a good Edmonton fit. It's that time of the year, right, where these coaches are getting interviewed.
Yeah, and the name that hasn't come up that I'm surprised is Mark Washington, formerly of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Wouldn't surprise me to see Mark Washington as the next defensive coordinator in Ottawa. Here's one thing that's interesting, Barney. And yeah, I see Sherritt going to Edmonton, joining Rick Campbell's staff, by the way. I expect Mark Killam, formerly Calgary's special teams coach, longtime special teams coach, to end up with Rick Campbell in Edmonton. They work together in the Stampeder staff. This is what's interesting. Somebody mentioned this to me, and I thought it was really, an intriguing point. when you think about the NFL draft, all these teams can interview prospects. They can bring them in for pre-draft visits. They can work them out. They can have them on the field. They can put them up on the whiteboard and check out their football IQ. And they're doing a lot of that knowing full well they're not going to draft that player because he's not going to drop to them. But they're doing it to kind of plant the seed in their own mind of, all right, who's this guy 3-4 years from now if he becomes a free agent, if he's on the trading block, if there's a situation where we can go acquire him? Is this somebody we want around here? And there are very few opportunities for coaches to be able to do that. And a lot of these conversations are, we may not know Josh Bell. We may not know JC Sherritt. Let's find out what they're about. It may not work for the 2024 offseason, but maybe down the road.
It's called the long play, right?
That's right. That's right.
Well, the draft thing, I've known hockey teams that have done that. It's like, yeah, probably not going to draft them, but let's send this scout and put in the work because, yeah, it's a bit of the long play. Okay, we're going to get into a debate now about the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes.
I just can't see it sustainable throughout the playoffs the way they're playing. Like, there's a point in that game I'm like, though. Sit Derrick Henry down. This game is in the bag, and he is just getting you the 3-4 yard carries, which are important. But when a game's in the bag in Los Angeles...
Let me stop you there. The game's not in the bag.
Well, it's not the CFL. It pretty much was.
But hold on. As a card-carrying member of the Minnesota Vikings fan club here, we had the football with 6 minutes to go in the game, up 2 touchdowns, and the next thing I know, Caleb Williams has the ball in overtime nearing midfield.
Okay. The Ravens might be a smidge bad. I don't want to use the word better. We're more confident in the Ravens holding that lead than the Minnesota Vikings. And then you have Lamar running the ball. And it's like, what are you guys doing? Like, now I got to look at their schedule here and figure out, is there a load management scenario?
There is on the back half of the season. But at that point, you're like, don't forget, they're 8-4 now. Like, they need some wins. But here's the thing: like, there's 2 facets to this. One, you're averaging 7 yards a carry. 7 yards a carry. Why are you going to get away from that? 2, because your guy's going to get hurt and not be able to play in January and beginning of February. I think. I hear you. But this is their DNA. And you think about why they lost the playoff game to Kansas City last year. It's because they got away, for those on the stream watch, they got away from this. They got away from running the football. And this now has to, and the way you set up that deep Rashard Bateman touchdown is by having Derrick Henry and Justice Hill do this. The other thing is, Barney, with 6 minutes to go in the game, up a couple of touchdowns, your opponent at that point is actually not LA. It's not the Chargers. It's the clock. So it just tick, 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 tick. And if you can wear down
I'm aware of all this. I just think that there's no need. Hey, Justice Hill, fill your boots. You're going to run it 20 times here in the next 4 minutes. Get Henry off the field. And Lamar. And I'm no Ravens fan. I don't know, man.
I think if you're up 3 touchdowns, you get Lamar off the field. Look, here's what's like. What if the Chargers recover the onside kick in a 7-point game? There's a minute to go.
The whole problem is going back to what you were talking about. They've lost some games that they shouldn't have, and now they're in a predicament that they need wins. It's Correct. Like you have no house money to play with. Like Correct. you got the Eagles. That's a major league matchup coming up here Sunday. Then you have the Giants. Sign Arbuckle for the game. You'll win that. Yeah. Steelers, tough one. Texans, they are Jekyll and Hyde. I have no idea what they're all about. And then you end it with the Browns, which are playing next year country, which is dangerous. So I don't know. You were mentioning this. I think I saw it on social media. There's a chance of a team with a losing record that could end up hosting a playoff game this year in the NFL.
Two. Look at the NFC South and the NFC West. The division leaders are 6-5 and 6-5 respectively. Now, division champs are going to host a playoff game. So you have a scenario in which, let's just say it's the Seahawks in the NFC West or Arizona. It doesn't matter who. Like, Green Bay is 8-3 and they're third in the NFC North. You're going to have a scenario, but, remember the Beastquake game? Remember Marshawn Lynch beating the Saints? It's the same kind of scenario. It's a weird one. It's a weird one when, these teams just beat up on each other in the division. Nobody's running away with it. Is it Arizona? Is it Seattle? Could the Rams? I'm not buying San Francisco. They feel like they're toast.
Oh, but have they gone south?
I mean, look, you start Brandon Allen at quarterback. Nick Bosa's on. Their entire front was different. Deebo Samuel looks like he's completely checked out. And Christian McCaffrey's a shell of what he used to be. And George Kittle's playing on one ankle. What could possibly go wrong?
I know actually quite a few 49er fans. And
yeah, sure.
I think it could be the end of the line.
And the question becomes, what do you do with Mr. Irrelevant? Do you pay Purdy? And if you do, he's not going to get max. Right now his shoulder's an issue, blah, blah, blah. What are you going to pay Purdy? I actually think that puts them in an advantageous position, because if you can get Brock at a $25 or $30 million cap hit rather than 50 or 55, you can actually build around that if Ricky Pearsall is going to be okay. But if he's not, ... that's a different story.
Okay, I want to end it with this. 1989. Do you remember anything? I'm going to say you have been really young, but it was It was on this day in 1989.
Dave Ridgway.
Oh. Watch Glenn Suter's hold here. We're going to talk to him in about 40 minutes time. Like, just textbook. I think he held a number of holding clinics around North America after this. Look at that's a sweater. We got to get that in the team room, team store. I mean, look at that turf. Oh, like the province. And you're not from here, and you're not from here. You guys weren't born. I was 9 years old. There was people that messaged today. They were drinking green beer at parties. They were and you got to remember, this is 89. Nothing was accessible. It wasn't that easy to go watch anything. Like, now you can hop on a plane, go watch a game in Vegas, and be back the next day, or Phoenix, or wherever.
What was that? That was the second championship in franchise history?
Yes.
The second Grey Cup? Yeah.
Yes. And you know the thing that I still remember being that young? How many, I was obviously in Saskatoon, still at mom and dad's because I was 9, is how many people took buses, busloads, went from Saski to Toronto. I don't even think they do that with prisoners. That is such a jaunt on a bus. And then don't forget, you got to come back. Yeah, mind you won. The celebration would have been great. But yeah, they loaded up buses to head to the new Sky Dome, because that was the other thing too. It was like this.
It was a novelty.
1989.
What would be a great, and unfortunately, I'm sure there weren't a lot of camcorders on those buses, but the stories from the buses home, not on the way there, like What? I mean, how long would that have been? 20-ish hours?
No, it's way more. Like you got to. I want to say you're, and someone can correct in the Capital Ford Lincoln text line. I want to say it's at least a 30. It's a 30-hour swing, man.
I don't want to produce
1 day,
your show
22
for
hours.
You. I don't want to produce your show for you, man. But I think it'd be awesome if you could get somebody on to tell a story or two from the bus home on anniversary day. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Is it that far, Coulson?
1 day, 22 hours. So 46.
No.
I've done the drive from Regina to Toronto a lot of times, being from Brantford, and during COVID when we couldn't do anything but drive.
Say, are you on the no-fly list? Why would you do that?
No, during COVID we couldn't, and every time I've done it, it's been like 36 hours door to door with a little bit of sleep in Northern Ontario. And then obviously the last few years we've been able to go through the U.S. again, but during COVID couldn't cross the border. But yeah, it's the thing that people don't realize is like you've left Regina and you've driven for 8 hours and you've gone through Saskatchewan and through Manitoba and you're into Ontario and you still have probably 24 hours left to get to Southern Ontario. Like it is just, you go so far to get around the lakes. And I have to assume in 1989 with a bus load of fans, the type of people who would get on a bus to drive to Toronto, they probably weren't cutting through the United States in terms of the logistics of getting through the border.
No, that was pre-passport day. You could get in with our cartoon ID.
I don't discredit that, but I still think the types of people who probably were riding a bus to Toronto, they were probably going up over the lakes. And it's interesting, I just was reading about the game because right when the video went on and you said, oh, look at that turf, I was like, ooh, that's Skydome for sure. As somebody who grew up around there, and it opened in 89. But I was reading that it was minus 10 when the team came back. And that was the year that almost bankrupted the Riders. Said they had projected an $85,000 profit because they had to go on the road for 3 road games. They lost $195,000 that year and took the debt of the team to $1.6 million at that time. So 1989, $1.6 million, that's like 10 today's dollars.
Something. Yeah, around there. Yeah, looking at this, I can't wait to talk to Glenn Suter about this, but so you going through the States, you got to go through Chicago, which could take half a day getting through there or around it still. So that, and then the other way, you got to go like Thunder Bay and then down. Oh man, the stories that they would have, Arash, like you said, the marriages that became of it, the marriages that left because of it. That's a lot of time on a bus.
It's a lot of time on a bus.
Yeah.
And yeah, adult diapers for everyone.
Oh. All right, buddy. Let's hey, when we talk to you on Thursday, we're going to be live at Agribition.
Oh, beauty.
It's going to be buzzing down there. So, okay, have a good couple days, and we'll chat with you on Thursday.
Sounds good. See you, boys.
Coast to Coast with Arash Madani for Brian Gawley, Smart Investing Solutions. Brian Gawley's the kind of guy that I think would know what that drive's like. Seems like a kind of guy that likes to drive, and I think if I'm taking this drive, I'm going through the States. Like that Thunder Bay up around the lakes there. Is that a nice drive? What's the nicer drive if you did it in decent weather? You've done them both.
Oh, the nicer drive is going through Ontario for sure, because you're getting like 12 hours of coming around the lakes and you're just constantly looking out at beautiful scenery. But I wouldn't do it more than once, and I've done it a lot.
It is the all-new Sports Cage. We're talking about the kick, Dave Ridgway, 1989. On this day in 1989. Unbelievable. That's how fast time goes. We'll be right back. We're watching on the stream, sportscage.com, and as always on 620 CKRM.